Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 55, entitled Sandal Blue with Seantae Jackson. I'm so excited to bring this conversation to you. It is a powerful one. But first, I want to tell you about something exciting. My new one-on-one coaching program called Season of Creation. This is a 12-week package where we take your current situation, your current problems, the things that are causing you to feel stuck, and we work through those together for 12 sessions. This is a great way to get awareness around where you are, the beliefs that are holding you back, and creating a path to where you want to go. Finding those beliefs that will serve you better. So if you are interested in working with me, I would love to be your coach. So just click on the link in my show notes and you can sign up for the interest list, and I will reach out to you and we can work out a time to have a conversation to see if this is a good fit for you. Now on to this week's episode with Seantae. I am excited to share her with you. She has a powerful message, a beautiful message that I believe that someone listening to this needs to hear. I needed to hear it, quite honestly. Seantae and her husband, Trevor, are dear friends of ours. We have known Trevor for many years. He grew up in the town we live in and worked with Phil in the young men's organization in our ward. And when he met and married Seantae, we instantly fell in love with her. She truly is a beautiful, beautiful soul. Seantae and Trevor and their two older boys and a dear friend of theirs were hit head on their way to a backpacking trip together. They suffered life-threatening injuries, and it continues to be a daily struggle. But through this tragedy, through this heartbreaking experience, they've been able to find the joy. They've been able to focus on hope. After we recorded this episode, Seantae shared a powerful analogy with me that she learned from someone, and it's this. She said, picture a jar of water that's about halfway full, right? And in that jar is dirt. It's kind of muddy and it's kind of settled in the bottom. And she compared that to life. And the water is the joy, and the dirt is kind of the struggle and the hard things that we go through. And sometimes we can feel like we are just stuck in the hard things, surrounded by the mud of life. All we have to do is pour more water into our jar, and that dirt will eventually work its way out. That's what we do. We pour more joy into our life, and that will help us work through the messiness, right? But add more joy. And that's what Seantae and Trevor and all their family are doing, is they are trying to add more joy to their jar. And here is our conversation.
Awesome. Well, Jill, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get to be here with you and for us to get to spread some light and some hope together. Jill and I have known each other for a long time. We met through my husband, and my husband and Jill's husband were pals back in the day when Phil was my husband's leader. And they've gone on many adventures together, which I always love hearing about, especially when they get together and get talking.
And they talk about it. They laugh. Yeah. And I think I said this to you before, but that's when this term came to be. Phil was not Moses and they were not the children of Israel, because they had gotten lost and they were like, okay, enough.
That's right. That's right. They've had some adventures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Well, like you said, my name's Seantae, and I am an elementary art teacher here in the Valley, and I love to get to spend time with kids. We have 5 children ourselves, 2 sets of twins, which is always a shock to people and super fun for us. And then a special man in the middle that he's the, the peanut butter to our jelly and the ham to our sandwich. We're glad
Yeah.
he's in there too.
Yeah. I love it.
A little bit about our story. So, about a year and a half ago, we were taking our oldest twins backpacking to the Wind Rivers, which is where my husband and your husband have spent a lot of time, and it's my husband Trevor's very favorite place in the world. And we had incentivized our children that when they got good grades, especially a 4.0 in from middle school on, every year that they accomplished that we would reward them with a backpacking trip. It's something they've always wanted to do because mom and dad get to go, and they wanted to do that with us. So we were headed to the Wind Rivers. One of my good friends was with us as well. She wanted to learn how to fish. And when we were on our drive there in Wyoming, we're on a 2-lane road. So we're headed one direction, the other lane is headed the other direction. And a car went to pass a semi, and for some reason didn't see us. We don't know exactly what happened. She sped up to pass the semi. And in attempt for us to miss each other, we both got off of the road and hit head on. From the police report, it's about hitting a brick wall at about 160 miles an hour. To say it's a miracle that I'm sitting here is an understatement. None of us should have woken up. Luckily, everybody in our car did and has survived. We all blacked out and had serious injuries. There's 5 of us in our vehicle, and 4 of us were life flighted. My husband was trapped in the car with the engine on top of his lap, which started on fire twice. And our son, Owen, was unconscious from that moment on for a long time. He suffered a severe traumatic brain injury that they had to put him into a medically induced coma for. And he was in that coma for 9 days. Like I said, we all had severe injuries, and we luckily have made it through that with a lot of heartache and a lot of hope. I would say paralleling each other the whole time. And we have continued to just fight every day, and it is a fight every day. And we're fighting every day, both for us and for others. And we've learned the importance of faith and hope. We've learned the importance of family and community, having people on our side as we've gone through our recovery. We're still at it right now. My husband Trevor just had surgery 3 weeks ago, and we're closer to 2 years out of this point. So as you can tell, we're in the thick of it still, years out, and we will be. And it has forever changed us for the better. We have learned a lot. I can understand other people in ways that I never could before. We've met people along the way that we never would have before. We have witnessed angels in many forms, and we're using this experience to move forward and to help others, and to realize our grit and determination as we continue to fight every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a miracle. It is a miracle that your whole family is where they are. I remember when it happened, it was July. We've talked about this. It was around the 24th of July. And in Mendon, in our small town, it's kind of a big celebration. And so that's why I just tie it to that time of year. And I just remember hearing the news and just thinking, oh my goodness. And then not long after, is it called Caring Bridge?
Yes.
Yeah. A Caring Bridge was set up, which is a way to let people know in the masses what's going on instead of texting every person individually how you're doing. And so from the outside looking in, it has been so good to have that, to be able to see kind of the process and the journey of it all. And I know you don't share it all on there, right? And I remember in one of the conversations that we recently had, you were talking about your son, how you didn't post pictures of him looking a certain way because you wanted to keep the future open, if
That's
you
right.
will. So tell a little bit about that. I just loved how you talked about that.
Absolutely. So our son Owen, like I said, he was in a coma. And then when he woke up, he had to relearn how to do everything. He had brain injuries on every part of his brain. So both hemispheres, the frontal lobe and the part that connects both hemispheres. So he literally had to relearn how to do everything. At first it was breathing, then from there it was going to the bathroom, eating, talking, walking, all of those things. And through that time, and even still, we were using the platform of Caring Bridge to inform everybody what was going on because it was exhausting to live our life, let alone tell everybody what was going on. And it was a great way to get, yes, over and over is really, really hard. And I was very, very conscious of what I put on there about Owen because he looked a mess. He didn't look like himself. He wasn't himself. His brain function was really low at the time. And I did not want people to picture him like that. I wanted people to picture him as his best self. I wanted them to think of him the last time they had seen him, and I wanted that to be what the universe and God saw him as. I wanted everybody to create the energy and the flow and the faith and the prayers to move him towards that being again. And I had a moment myself actually in the hospital. It was probably day 2 or 3. It was the night. It's the middle of the night, and I was sobbing. They talk about wailing, and I've never experienced that myself in such a term. And I literally was wailing, and I was in my own hospital bed all by myself. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember thinking, how have the nurses not come to check on me? Because I was so vocal and everybody was asleep. Nobody had heard me, I suppose. And I eventually pressed the nurse button and an aide came in, and I just said, what if my son dies? What am I going to do? And it was a very real possibility then and for a long time. And she said, I am somebody that I see things, and I always have, and they've always been right. And she told me this story that the night before, she'd been one of my caretakers the whole time. She said, the night before, I had this vision of this boy, and he was at a family party at a park, and he was walking and he was talking and he was laughing, and you were there. And I was beside myself. I said, what do you mean? She said, I really think it's Owen. And I looked at her and I said, do you want to see a picture of him? And I pulled out my phone and I showed her a recent picture, and her face went white as a ghost. And she said, Seantae, that's the boy I can see. And from that moment on, I knew how important it was to have hope. I knew how important it was for everybody to picture him in that capacity. And from that moment on, I did not talk to healthcare professionals about what if bad. I talked about what if good. And any conversations that were in the room with him were positive, period, the end. We had to know facts. We had to know reality, and there was some big facts and big reality. But those conversations were outside of his room. Inside of his room, we encouraged and talked about and acted as if he was his best self and that he was going to be his best self. And there wasn't even a question about it. That's what we put out to everybody, and that's what we put out to him. And I have since had multiple doctors tell me that he would not be where he was had we not been the way that we were with him. We believed in him and we pushed him. We didn't say, oh, well, you probably can't do that. Why don't you take a break now? It was like, no, you got this. I know this is going to happen. If not today, tomorrow. So you keep going and you keep thriving and you keep trying. And he worked his bum off. He did so good. And he
Yeah.
did. And he is that person now. He has worked towards it. And I do think there's power in that.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
there's
too.
power in putting it out there and
Yeah.
saying, what could the hope be? What could
Yeah.
we get to?
Yeah. I think it's so applicable to anyone,
Yeah.
right? Like whatever situation or circumstance you're in, like visioning what is possible instead of discounting and staying stuck in what you believe is inevitable,
Yes. Yeah.
right? I
Instead
just
of
think,
what if I fail, it's, well, what if you succeed?
yeah.
What would
Like,
that look like? What
what
does
would
that
that look
feel
like?
like?
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful. So and this story has so much more to it,
Yes.
and we can't share all of it at this time, but a lot of nuances and ups and downs, and it's a dynamic story. It's still happening, like you said.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the time where um, I remember you saying you were helping other people take care of your family
Yes.
as the emergency workers came and were doing it, and everybody is sent somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It was just like you said, four of you are life flighted. It's just you're going, there's a lot of trauma.
Yes.
And because of this experience, you have started a foundation, a nonprofit, um, called Sandal Blue. And so let's talk about that title a little bit. And when I first saw the title of your organization, I didn't get it. I didn't know what that all meant, right? And so as we have talked, it's been so fun to understand the meaning behind it. And so I'd love for you to speak to that.
Absolutely. So yes, we have started a nonprofit called Sandal Blue Foundation, helping other motor vehicle accident survivors. It is a very long road that can feel very isolating. And knowing that there are other people who understand and giving aid and connection is the goal and what we strive for. So the name came about because when you're in a large trauma like that, the emergency personnel need to put your information into the system quickly because they need to keep track of your vitals, of medications, of transportation, those types of things. And for my husband Trevor, they landed the life flight on the road to get to him, and he wasn't in a place to explain who he was and what his birth date was and pull up his file, of course. So they give you what's called a trauma name. And it's literally just something random in the system that picks a name so that they can start inputting information. And they make it obvious that it's not a real name so that nobody thinks that's really what your name is. And Trevor's was Trauma Sandal Blue. And everybody has asked, did he have blue sandals on? The answer is no. He did have brown chacos, but we've researched and it is totally at random how the names get picked. Somebody didn't come up with it. It was just something in the system. And within those first few days, all the adults in our vehicle that had been a part of this, we all knew instantly that we wanted to do something with this. And this was in the thick of, we didn't know if we were going to live. Trevor almost didn't make it through multiple surgeries. And we knew we wanted to do something positive. We knew the healthiest way to cope was going to be to reach out instead of going inward. And so from there is where the Sandal Blue Foundation was born, and it has grown, and it's been such a blessing to us. And we're so grateful that we're able to reach out because, I heard a quote recently that said, when you feel helpless, get helpful. And there couldn't be anything more true than that. Now, are there moments for wallow and pity? Absolutely. And we need to respect that when our bodies need that, our mind needs that, our soul needs that. But when we're ready to pull ourselves out of that, getting helpful does do that. And that's what our foundation has been. It's for us just as much as it is for anybody else to be able to reach out.
Yeah. So explain a little bit what its purpose is, what your hope is behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission is to help motor vehicle accident survivors and their families, we recognize that when this happens, it does not just affect you. We have seen the ripple effects continue, and we still see how many people it has affected. And like I said, it has created a community of helpers. And so our foundation is helping and aiding, giving ideas, giving resources. We do things like providing cleaning services or laundry services or meal cards right at the beginning. And then from there, it's a lot of resources. And it's meeting together and having a community of people that understand. We just recently visited a family that similar story. It was their whole family, husbands relearning how to walk, and just sitting with other people that get it without a word being said is so powerful. And then from there, it is all about encouragement. We are a solution-focused foundation, so our purpose is to help people grow and to thrive, not just to survive this, but to find new meaning, to find new purpose. At the end of recovery journeys, we hold events. So let's say they were relearning how to walk. We'll hold an event that they walk a half-mile race, and everybody comes and encourages and supports and celebrates their progress. So it's kind of a start to finish thing. And when I say finish, it's a forever thing, right? Once you're a part of this club, you're in it always, and you get to help one another throughout their own journeys as well.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So, I know that you go speak places and you do stuff with driver's ed. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It's been really interesting to see and so fun to see where things have landed with all of this. But we're obviously very passionate about teaching people safe driving habits. Because we have teenagers ourselves, we understand the importance of that with new teen drivers, and we do presentations and driver's ed classes that are near us at the high schools often. And then also I'm a motivational speaker. I'm traveling and speaking from, small church communities to big companies, and just spreading a word of hope and resiliency, allowing people to remember that no matter their situation, they're crazy busy at work, they're working, 60, 80-hour work weeks, how they can find pockets of joy and pockets of time within their day, how they can envision the life that they're hoping for, and how powerful that is.
So good. So good. So as you've gone on this journey and will continue, right? What would you say has been the hardest part?
Oh, there's been multiple hard parts, and I think it changes as, the seasons of life for myself change as well. But I think one of the hardest parts has been acceptance. There's the grieving cycle, and that applies to loss, whether it's loss of life, an actual life lost, or the loss of what your life was going to be. And we have a lot of that for all of us in different ways. And the acceptance is definitely one of the hardest things. And it depends on where I'm at in the grief cycle. Many people know this, but it's not a perfect circle. And it's messy and it's continual, and it continues all the time. It's not something that's a one and done kind of thing, because I've gone through it probably 30, 40 times at this point. And I think just allowing myself to accept what is really, really beneficial, whether it's a day that I think, you know what, all I can do is make it through the next 30 minutes, and just accepting that is both difficult and extremely powerful. And when I'm able to voice that, especially, hey, today's not my day. I got to do my thing right now, and I just got to get through. But tomorrow I'll probably feel like helping again. Tomorrow I'll probably feel like spreading hope again. But for right now, I got to practice what I preach, and I got to lay low. I got to do these things. So, while you ask me what's the hardest thing and I say acceptance, I also will say that it's probably the most powerful as I embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is such, it's kind of like, oh, how would I word it? There's just power. Like you said, there's power there because when we can't get to acceptance,
Yeah,
we can't progress.
absolutely.
It keeps us fighting against what is. But
Yes.
when we can move into acceptance, and that looks like so different for everyone, right? And their experiences that they're facing. But even just like stepping towards a little acceptance, like right, baby step acceptance is what moves us forward.
Yes.
And that allows you to go, now what?
Great.
Right? Like this is where we are. Now how am I going to move forward from this place?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think when we're accepting, I've noticed the power that comes in seeing what is with the acceptance, like you're talking about. But what that looks like for me is I'm noticing more joy when I'm accepting.
Yeah.
I'm noticing the things to be grateful for when I'm accepting. If I'm denying and I am holding on to what could have been or what was at one point, I'm not allowing myself to see the positives either, because
Yeah.
there are so many positives. And I know people have worse stories than I, and they will tell you as well that in those darkest moments, there is still light. There is still hope. And we know that through our faith and through our hope that we can get through this moment. We are not alone. And we're able to see that when we accept it. When we
Yeah.
don't say, I've got this, I can do this all on my own, or wow, this is so much, I'm going to shut down. Those things aren't going to help us. And it doesn't
Yeah.
allow others to help us either. When we do truly accept, when we're mindful of the moment, we see the good along with the bad, but we see the good. And
Yeah.
that propels us into a future that has even more good.
Yeah. That you said that so beautifully. I love it. I love that. Because yeah, I was, as you were speaking, that's what came to my mind is it blocks us from living in the moment.
Yes.
It blocks us from being present. And again, yeah, noticing the beauty that is still there in the midst of the heartache, which I loved how you said that, heartache and hope. I think sometimes at the beginning, and sometimes I think we think it has to be one or the other,
Yep.
right? I'm either heartbroken or I'm hopeful. And it's like we can be heartbroken and hopeful. They can coexist together.
Yeah.
But that's where that acceptance comes in,
Yeah.
right?
And I'll speak to the fact that before our accident, we'd actually had a lot of really big health challenges earlier that year. And I could have been in a pity party at that time too. I could tell that story and it would be powerful as well. However, in those moments, I still was really present. I really was still present in those moments. I was sitting by a child in a hospital bed and we were drawing together and I was there. And there were nights that our oldest twins were up till 11 o'clock at night. It was summer and they were singing so loudly, it was waking people up. And yes, there was a little bit of frustration, of course, but I also recorded it. I remember recording it thinking, I don't ever want to forget this moment. And then 2 days later, I almost lost both of them. I will never, ever, ever regret being present, ever. There is never a time that you will regret being present. Even if somebody does pass on, you
Yeah.
will not regret being present, accepting what is, seeing what there is in front of you and finding the light. It will bring you more joy than staying stuck ever could.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a powerful message. And the other thing that came to my mind as you were talking, we'd spoke to this earlier as well, is you mentioned how the things you did before are
Yeah.
what helped you get through this now. So speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. We've had many health challenges before and lots of other things that seemed challenging at the time. And we had talked to our kids. We had said, We sat them down one day, gosh, just weeks before the accident. And we said, we are so proud of you guys. We are so proud of our family for having grit and determination. We are resilient. You guys have proved that. We spent the time together that we could. Like I said, if I was in the hospital with a child because they were in the hospital, I was sitting with them. I was present. I was in that moment. We built blocks together. When I came home exhausted and it was late at night, I honored two things. I honored that I needed sleep, and I also honored that my other kids needed some time. So I gave them that time. We spent 2 minutes talking together, praying together, being with each other, cuddling, whatever it was that they needed. And those things are part of why I know that my kids will make it through this. I know that as a family, we will make it through this, not just because we've done it before, but because we have put into place practices that have helped us to continue looking forward, having faith, having hope, and allowing ourselves to be present in what is. And still to this day, one of us almost always is having a bad day. We have so much trauma, and it's very, very often that at least one of us is having a bad day. That is hard. It is challenging, but the rest of us know how to buoy that person up because we were the one the day before, and we're able to do that because we have set those things in place.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And the other thing that came to me is like, that is so applicable to the human journey,
Yes.
right? We're all that person that is struggling at some point. So when we're not,
Yes.
can we allow some grace for those that are that person that is in the thick of the messy at that moment? So,
and if we're in the thick of the messy at the same time, that's okay too.
Yeah. Let's show each other grace. Let's do that. So I love that. So I was trying to remember, there was another thing that you mentioned about Owen. It sounded like, I think it was that Trevor was kind of struggling. He was getting ready or he'd received some news about timing of the healing process and all of that, and feeling kind of down. And was it Owen that had this? Had such a beautiful insight. And so I would love for you to share that.
Yeah, for sure. So my husband, Trevor, is still working on physical capabilities with his legs because he had so many things broken and was down for so long. And he was just feeling really down and discouraged, rightfully so, absolutely. And Owen, who also has endured so much, had been quite positive. And one day I said, Owen, who's now 16, said, Owen, how are you not more down? He still has a ton of limitations. He has a lot of restrictions. He can't live a normal 16-year-old life, which, bless his heart, would be so hard at that age. And he looked at me and he just said this rambling thing that just was so poetic and beautiful. But he talked about, Mom, I can't change it. I can't change what happened. So I'm just going to do what I've got to do to move forward and find the good in each step. And it has been such a powerful motto that I have spoken in my own head because we can't change it. There are times that you say, why and what if and whatever, but that's pointless, right? Unless it's to help us grieve or process. Outside of those things, there's really no point to doing that because we can't change it. But what we can do is look forward. We can decide what we're going to do with those things. And we hear these types of stories all the time of people that, become paralyzed, but then do something incredible. They're not just amazing people. They have made that choice. They are choosing every single day to show up in that way. They are choosing to accept and to move forward. They are choosing to envision themselves as their best selves in this situation. And his message has been so powerful for all of us. I'm so grateful that he had that insight.
At
You talk,
16.
right? Yes,
Like,
you
that's
talk
pretty
about,
powerful.
yes, you talk about seasons of life. And I think there's so much wisdom to be had in talking to people that are in a different season from you, whether it's younger or older. There is so much wisdom to be talking to people in other seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome. So if you could share, I mean, we've talked about so many good things that I think people can take
Yeah.
and apply in their situation, in their season. But as we kind of round out our conversation, is there something that you want to leave with people that you think that could help them, no matter their my audience is mid-season women of faith, but any season, right? What is something that you would love to share with listeners today?
Um, Before I share that, I just want to tell them they're doing a really good job. I think sometimes we forget to acknowledge that. Wherever they're at and the things that they're doing, I salute them. And it makes me tearful just thinking about them hearing this, because I feel really strongly that somebody needs to hear that. They're doing a really good job. With that, I found this quote that says, "When the world says to give up, hope says, try one more time." There is power in trying again. There is power in having hope. You will not regret hoping and trying. If you need a minute, a day, a bowl of ice cream, a bubble bath, do it, take it, have it, and then try again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I think you're right. I was tearing up myself thinking that someone needs to know it's okay. You're doing great
Yep.
and you can have hope and try again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful message. So, if people want to find you, learn more about your story, learn more about what you have to offer as far as your foundation, Sandal Blue, or having you come speak,
Yes.
where would they find all that?
Yeah, thank you. I am booking all my speaking events for 2023, so I would love to get them on the calendar for sure. They can find information about that or about our foundation at sandalbluefoundation.org. There's a speaking tab that they can go to chat with me about what kind of event they've got coming and what they're looking for. And if anybody knows somebody that has been through a severe motor vehicle accident that could use some help or some hope or some connection, I would really love for them to go there so that we can reach out to them. And if anybody's looking to join us or anything, any sort of connection with us, they can find us on that website, sandalbluefoundation.org, or social media, also at Sandal Blue Foundation. There's emails listed on there, and we can put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
But I would love to connect with anybody and everybody. That's the best part of this journey.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, I will include all the links and everything in there so that they can find you. And Seantae, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. Most people won't know this, but this is our second recording because of operator error. And so I needed the message, right? You're doing
Yep.
just fine. It's fine.
Right.
But so Seantae was gracious enough to record this again. And honestly, like I benefited so much from the second time around. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a rating and review. If you'd like to learn more about what life coaching is, please schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work together through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to my website, seasons-coaching.com, and you can also find information about my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.